I will never understand this with the Jets. You fire your head coach, Todd Bowles, for underperforming, to then hire a different head coach who was just fired for underperforming and also kind of being a moron. And on top of that, he was in your own division, and that's Adam Gase. The most recent example we saw of this was when the Bills hired Rex Ryan after the Jets had fired him, idiotically thinking that Rex Ryan was going to be anything different than what he was with the Jets. The Dolphins dumped him. That should be a warning flag. But apparently for the Jets front office, it isn't. My goodness. They better hope it works. Otherwise, they're going to be looking like idiots. I will say this for the Jets. It's not a surprise with them getting Sam Darnold in last year's draft that they were going to be incredibly aggressive in free agency, going out and trying to spend money on this team to help out their young franchise signal caller. It's hence why you get the Le'Veon Bell deal. Ryan Khalil, you coax him out of retirement. You sign Kelechi Osemele. You sign Jamison Crowder. You sign Ty Montgomery, Ryan Griffin. Then on the defensive side of the ball, you got more cap space to spend money on. You spend it on C.J. Mosley, although he's not an edge rusher, and by God, you really need one, especially because you just drafted Jachai Polite in the third round, and then you cut him after training camp. But you could clearly see where the focus is, and at least I could say this. You just drafted a young quarterback in the first round. You brought in an offensive-minded head coach. It makes sense to load up on the offensive side of the ball because the fact of the matter is, we all know this, the Jets needed help and playmakers on the offensive side of the ball. You couldn't go into another season with the assortment of skill talent that they had. That's just not going to be good enough. You're potentially setting up your young quarterback for failure. So they went out there and got aggressive. Then in the draft, with that third overall pick, it's really hard to knock over drafted Quinnen Williams, the defensive lineman from Alabama. It's just really, really hard to knock him for that. I liked him a little bit better than Nick Bosa. You can make an argument Williams might have been the number one player in the draft. You get him third overall. While, yes, it's yet another premium first-round pick spent on yet another defensive player, and how many times are you going to do that? Sometimes the way the board breaks down, it's just really, really hard to pass on guys. Like it was Leonard Williams a few years back, like it was with Jamal Adams, like it is here with Quinnen Williams. It's really, really hard to pass on these guys sometimes. So you have to do that. Unfortunately for the Jets, since they had given up the second-round pick in the Sam Darnold trade in last year's draft, and their third-round pick, Polite, has already been cut, they're not going to get a whole lot of other contributions out of this draft class, which is a little concerning. But with the amount of money that they spent in free agency this year, at least for the moment, that might not matter quite as much. When I look at this team, what do I like? What do I not like? I look at their strengths, running game. You bring in Le'Veon Bell. You've got Bilal Powell there. You've got a nice group of running backs. You've got depth and quality on that roster. So you should be able to run the ball and run the ball effectively and run the ball consistently if you're the New York Jets offense. I look at their defense. I like the defensive line. You know, you're talking about you've got Leonard Williams, and you've got Henry Anderson, and now you've got Quinnen Williams you're bringing into the fold. That's going to be a pretty good front three unit, I would stand to believe. I also like their safeties with Jamal Adams and Marcus May, and in particular Jamal Adams. Like, he's just that dude. He is that franchise-building block piece of a defense. He's a leader. He's tough. He's everything you would want out of a big-name safety. He is everything that you would want out of a guy that you're trying to build a culture and a locker room and a team around. We'll see if Adam Gase eventually mind fucks him and screws the whole thing up. But nonetheless, is what it is. Looking ahead to this team schedule, I got my notes here. A chance early on in the season, you look at Buffalo and Cleveland at home the first 2 weeks, then going to New England in week 3. Maybe a chance to make a little bit of a statement there against a couple of teams that you could be banging it out with in the playoff race with Buffalo and Cleveland. And then week 3, going to New England to take on the Jets. Here's a chance to really make a statement as a team. Then you go weeks 5 to 8, and they've got to go to Philly, but then they've got Dallas and New England at home, and then Jacksonville on the road. Like, I will say, the early part of the schedule does not line up very well for the Jets. It doesn't. But if they can win a few of those early games and they can stick with it, and maybe they catch 1 or 2 teams napping, you get to weeks 9 to 14, this is where they can make some hay. They go to Miami to play the Dolphins. Then they host the Giants. Then they go to Washington to play the Redskins. Host Oakland. Go to Cincinnati. Host Miami. Like, if you could win a few of those early games and you get to that 6-week stretch between weeks 9 and 14, you can see the Jets reel off some wins and you could really see them start to make some hay in the playoff race in the AFC. And I honestly expect them to do that. Look, Adam Gase's first year in Miami, they went, 10-6 and went to the playoffs? I could see something similar happening here. I think Gase is an idiot in long term. The Jets are idiots for hiring him. But I get why they did it, even though I think it's moronic. But ultimately, I think you're going to see a big step forward in Sam Darnold this year. That's going to make a huge difference. You have clearly helped him out, getting him better talent around him on the offensive side of the ball. Now Robbie Anderson's more of a number 2 option, which is what you needed. Yeah, you just look at this team and you say, okay, I don't want to buy into them too much, but there's enough there to believe that they could win 9 or 10 games and make it as a wild card team in the AFC. And that's exactly what I think they'll do. They ain't challenging the Patriots. Let's not get nuts here, but they can make a little noise this year.